very early, isn't it? It's very early. You want? Do you want your water? Yeah. Dad? You want us to let you out?
Yeah.
Don't leave Daddy though. Let Daddy sleep. Mummy will sit there. You sit next to Mummy. He got his banana. His second banana. Yeah, we've just been up a bit early. So I thought I would go through and just do a Woodward's teaching on 1 Corinthians 13. Because it's just the same thing as the fruits of the Spirit. It's the same thing as the Beatitudes. The church has just defined. They've taken the blessings for one. But it's because they've defined what it means with their own imagination. And the ironic thing is that all three of those chapters or topics are against them. But they don't know that because they don't have the knowledge of God. So, I mean, anyone could read 1 Corinthians 13 and project that it's saying, just be nice. Just be nice to each other. Just be gentle. Don't call each other fools. As though Paul's saying that when in the next chapter he's saying, you're a fool because, what is it? I think he's talking about someone not believing in the resurrection. He says, thou fool. Paul, all foolish Galatians, he was always calling people idiots. You know why? Because he's quoting the prophets. Jehovah calls us all idiots because we did Christmas and Easter. We stopped keeping the 10 Commandments. I mean, think about this. How foolish is someone that is warned in prophecy? Because it's the same thing as Israel. Israel were booted out of their inheritance and were divorced from God. God actually divorced them because they didn't love God with all of their heart, soul, mind, and strength, and they despised his testimonies. What are God's testimonies? His prophecies. He writes things down as a pre-warning so that you won't do it. But you have to love him with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and go and read it and digest it so that you can have the knowledge of the future, so that you can not be a part of that and you can serve God in truth. Caleb, there's not a third banana. Doll. Oh, doll. And the church is doing that now. We only have to love God and neighbour. They don't know what that means either. They think that loving God and neighbour means what they think it means. They think the fruits of the Spirit means what they think it means. They think the Beatitudes means what they think it means. They think 1 Corinthians 13 means what they think it means. And it's all against them. And you just have to be aware of the lion pen of the scribes. And sometimes it's not even the lion pen of the scribes, which we're warned about in Jeremiah 8:8. Sometimes, well, all of the time, God has wrote the Bible in such a way to actually separate the wheat and the tares. Because in Isaiah 28, it says that God has written his word line upon line, precept upon precept. That means that that's how you've got to read the Bible. And it says, to whom shall he teach knowledge? To him that is weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. They understand the milk. They've kept the 10 Commandments. They're trying to obey God. They're seeking to serve God. They receive the Spirit of truth. And when they have the truth, God can teach them how the Bible is written line upon line. Oh, Jeremiah is repeating what Hosea said. And the Messiah is quoting what Hosea said. So you put it all together and you get the full picture. That's how the Bible's written. And only the Spirit of truth can show you that. That he did it on purpose. And it says that he's wrote it to those people because it blesses them. But he's wrote it also for the tares because it causes them to stumble. Because they don't read it line upon line. They define it with their own imagination. And we're told all the way throughout prophecy that the tares are going to be burned up in the day of the Lord because of the fruit of their own imagination. Jeremiah 6:16 and 19. The watchman. God is going to raise up watchmen. Come out of the church. Come out of her, my people, that you be not partaker of her sins and therefore her plagues that are coming. So you called out of the church, stop sinning. She's sinning. She's not going to stop sinning. You come out of her. He gives you the spirit of truth. He raises you up as a watchman and a servant. You go back to the church and you warn them of the judgment coming to try and bring other people out of the church and find your brothers and sisters. Jeremiah 6:16 is all about this. And then it even says that it tells you what they're going to say. We will not hearken. We will not obey. We will not keep the 10 commandments. We will not listen to the sound of the trumpet. And then because of that, it says, God says, I'm going to bring upon them the fruit of their own thoughts, which is going to be in great tribulation. He says, I'm going to put them into captivity. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's always extra specific about Mystery Babylon. This nation, the hammer of the earth, the leader with the dollar bill. They've got the word of God, they stand on it, they claim to know it. And yet, every single thing they do is actually written down. But they just say, America isn't in the Bible. Oh, it is. And it's Babylon, and it's Ephraim, and it's Nineveh. It's this great nation whose rampart, whose borders is the walls of the sea. It's where Ephraim and Judah dwell together. Israel and Judah, the Christians and the Jews, the left and the right, they're all dwelling together. The great whore is there in all of our many harlots, the Catholic Church and all of the many harlots, which is the Protestant Reformation. Oh, I think he's going to go and wake Richie up. We came in here to give him more time to sleep because they got sick. They're over it now, but the cough is lingering for Caleb, so it makes for a rough night's sleep. But anyway, he is waking Richie up. Caleb, can you come in here? It's nearly 7 a.m. now, though, to be fair. Let's just read 1 Corinthians 13, see how much we can get done. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, the love of God, that's the charity. There you go, line part of the scribes. They've changed it to charity because they want your money, so they want you to feel like you have to give them tithes, give money to charity. And you know, covetous people go to the letter of the New Testament. So don't go to the letter of the law. Well, don't go to the letter of the New Testament either. It's like, if you go to the letter, charity, you're going to define that with your flesh and be like, oh, I need to be charitable and I need to give to my pastor and I need to give to these charities physical money. That's not what it's about. But covetous people put the value on those physical things way more so than the spiritual things. Paul also in the chapter previously is talking about the different gifts of the Spirit and stuff like that. So like speaking in tongues, teaching, prophesying. So though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. Define the love of God for me. Go to 1 John 5:3 and Deuteronomy 6:1-5. Whoa, because that's what the Messiah is quoting. He wants to just quickly dance. Oh, this is a sad one.
No.
Isn't it sad? It's a slow one. Uh-oh. Okay. So 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. The love of God is the 10 commandments. So though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I'm become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. So how could someone be speaking in true tongues, which speaking in tongues, it's really just speaking in the deeper speech, it's understanding the parables, because it can sound like a different language, which is why Paul says it's more profitable to prophesy, to teach what it is, that to like really teach the meaning of the dark sayings, because when you just speak in the idioms, it can just go over people's heads. So you have to explain the idioms. Like if I just constantly say, fulfill the royal law, be a watchman, without defining it and giving you the chapters, I'm not really prophesying. So you can't always prophesy with everything, you know. Oh. And wow. So, if you're speaking in tongues and you've been given the spirit of truth and you don't have charity, you don't have the love for your neighbour, which means that you're going to teach them the 10 Commandments and rebuke their sins, you become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. That's the sounding brass. If you're not teaching the 10 Commandments, you are sounding brass. So those teaching the 10 Commandments and sharply rebuking fables against the 10 Commandments, they're the definition of not sounding brass. The ones who are rebuking the people for sharply rebuking and saying, you don't have love, like in 1 Corinthians 13, you're nasty. They're the ones sounding brass. so ironic. Because you don't have the love of God in you, and so you can't teach your brother or sister the love of God. So you're sounding brass. Like, what's the point of you then? And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. So this is so even more specific to the evil servants. These are people that have the gift of prophecy, that understand these mysteries and knowledge, and you have faith. And the royal law really is the bullseye of the whole instruction of God. You need to get this. So when the Messiah says, when he elevates the 2 commandments, and he magnifies the law and makes it honourable, he elevates loving God and neighbour. So if this person is woken up to the truth and is loving God and is understanding prophecy, and then they turn from the holy commandment, which is to love their neighbour, which is to go and teach their neighbour, people wax cold because of cowardice, because of fear, because of covetousness, because all sorts of reasons which are in prophecy about the evil servants. If you don't teach your neighbour what you've been shown, it profits you nothing, because he's going to take away from you that which you thought that you had. Because God can't dwell with someone that doesn't love their neighbour, because if you don't love your neighbour, you actually don't love God. So God's given you a shot. But if you don't repent the whole way and really get into servanthood, you're done. The love of God is that you keep the commandments, but the love of your neighbour is that you teach others to do so. So if you start going and loving God, and oh my goodness, like, he showed me all these things because I'm starting to obey, and then God starts to call you to go and teach your brother, and you won't do it because you're lazy or you're covetous, they won't like me very much, or, I've got to say some harsh things, or so you quench the spirit. He's going to withdraw from you. This is the warning against the evil servants in the latter days. This honestly could even speak to people who claim to know Paleo-Hebrew and the calendar and all these like mysteries, and they have this like knowledge that puffs them up, but they don't go around and teach the 10 Commandments relentlessly to people like the watchmen are supposed to. They're sounding brass because they're going around puffing themselves up, trying to speak partial Hebrew, to puff themselves up. It's only edifying themselves, and it's not even edifying themselves. They just have this click, and they want to seem a certain way. They want to seem knowledgeable in front of people, but they don't love their neighbour. They don't teach their neighbour to keep the simple 10 Commandments. They don't go back to the church. They come out of the church and then they get all puffed up, but they end up stumbling to the right after they've stumbled to the left, and this is prophecy, and they're sounding brass. But then all of these people on the left and the right, the stumbling blocks, they point the finger at Jacob standing rebuking in the gate on the centre path, on the narrow path. They point the finger at Jacob and say, you're nasty. Jacob is anything but nasty. He might say some harsh things, sharp things, nasty sounding things that's already written in prophecy, but he has to warn you because he actually loves you. Not according to your definition of love, though. So, charity suffers long. This is the patience of the saints. This is long-suffering. Long-suffering isn't tolerance. Tolerating sin isn't patience. So if you justify your cowardice of rebuking someone as patience, that's like the worst possible thing that you could do. Long-suffering. Mo? Wait a second, I'm nearly finished this chapter and then we'll go and make eggs. Okay? Can we do that? Well, I'm just going to go and get him some strawberries because he is getting hungry. 2 bananas isn't enough for this boy. You let mommy say no seed. Right. So it's charity that suffers long. Those who fulfill the royal law are the ones suffering long because it is full of suffering. It's full of controversy and stress and repetition over and over again. That's the patience of the saints. If you rebuke someone of their sin and then someone else sins the same sin, this is why social media is actually, the only good thing about social media is that we can reach the American church and anyone that claims to be a believer, because we're all in the same place. So like you can reach so many more people. You can do videos, you can your Twitter feed is just full of apostate Christians that need to be told the truth, and it's very controversial, and we do it day in, day out. That's the job of Jacob. That's why he gets to inherit the kingdom. So charity, teaching the commandments, suffers long. That's the long suffering, and that is kindness. Charity envies not. Charity vaunteth not itself, and is not puffed up. But trust me, if you fulfill the royal law, they're going to think that you're puffed up. Because nowadays, if you judge anyone about anything, you're puffed up somehow. It's literally the opposite. We're humiliated, which is why we go and rebuke sin. We've been rebuked for our sin. We want other people to receive the Holy Spirit. We're just doing the job that God wants us to do. Charity does not behave itself unseemly. It seeks not her own. It's not easily provoked and thinks no evil. So, seeks not her own. This isn't about vainglory. This isn't about this isn't about creating a ministry or trying to rebuke sin for your own gain. Like, how could it even be for your own gain? The only gain is when someone repents. That's honestly the only good thing about this. And the meat and juice season. That is amazing. But then you pay the meat and juice season forward and no one wants it. And it's like, many are called but few are chosen. So charity isn't easily provoked. So this is also interesting, because right now we're in the time of full-blown fables, so you have to be sharply rebuking the fables. And we're told in Deuteronomy 32 that we are going to be provoked to anger by a foolish nation, which is Mystery Babylon. So we're going to be provoked to anger by their bullshit, essentially. But so I haven't actually looked at what provoked is in the Strongs, but also day in, day out, it's kind of like some of the things that people say, it is very provoking, but it's not like, you hear it so much. You hear the same thing over and over again. And it's kind of just like, oh my goodness. And it's always counteracted a lot of the time with this like pity. It's like, how can you not see it? But then at the same time, we are going to be provoked to anger by these people. So don't think that if you're being provoked to anger that it's sin. It's prophecy. It has to be this way. Paul even tells us that we're going to be angry at a foolish nation. He's quoting Deuteronomy 32. God gets mad for the provoking of his sons and daughters. So we're going to be provoked. Yeah, I would like to look into the word provoked, but I mean, not easily provoked. I mean, I think considering the circumstances, I would say that I'm not easily provoked to actual rage, even though I'm hearing the same bullshit lie over and over again. But yeah, there's days where I'm really so frustrated, and you're thinking about the children of these people, and it's just like, oh, why won't they listen? Like, why would you actually dig your heels in when you know that you obviously don't understand the Bible? And it is provoking, obviously. And it's because you actually have love for these people that it is provoking. Thinks no evil. Obviously, it doesn't think any evil. Because evil is sin. Thinking evil would be, oh, I'll just not tell them the truth because, it'll be uncomfortable. That's evil. Putting yourself in an uncomfortable position for the sake of the other person maybe repentant, that is love. Get over it. Charity rejoices not in iniquity. It doesn't rejoice in sin. It rebukes it, but rejoices in the truth. Christians don't rejoice in the truth. The Torah movement doesn't rejoice in the truth. They rejoice in tradition. It hopes in all things and endures all things. That means you've got to endure stuff, hard stuff. Charity never fails, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. The true knowledge of God and God's prophecies will obviously stand forever. So I don't know if this is talking about the knowledge that puffs up, or whether it's talking about like meat and due season will always be given, or like the prophecy itself will be fulfilled and then another time will come. But charity, you always have to love your neighbour. You always have to be watching over the souls of your neighbour. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. That's interesting, yeah, because we always have the knowledge of, we never quite have the full picture because the full mystery of God won't be revealed until the seventh trumpet. So that's actually really interesting. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even also I am known. And now abide in faith, hope, charity. The faith of Yeshua is that he came to end sacrificial law and teach us the Holy Covenant and elevate the royal law over the sacrificial law. That is the faith of Yeshua. That is Deuteronomy 18. That's who he was always supposed to be. That's who he was. He taught us the 10 Commandments. And when you keep the 10 Commandments, you can receive the Spirit of truth to be able to go and help your neighbour enter the kingdom by rebuking their sins. So that's the faith, hope, and charity, the love of God, keeping and teaching the commandments. These three, but the greatest of these is charity. Charity is the greatest because those who fulfill the royal law, those who love their neighbour and rebuke their sins and watch over the souls of Israel, there's no law against them. Think about that. Now, so finished with that. So if you're teaching the commandments, even if you're teaching it sharply when people are lying, like Paul says in Titus 1, you aren't sounding brass, don't listen to these bullshitters. It's because they're cowardly. They could never do what you're doing because they don't have faith in God. And you couldn't do what you're doing if you didn't have faith in God, because it's the Spirit of God that even does it. So they just can't have the faith, and I feel sorry for them, honestly. What's that? You have crumbs all over your face. The bear's back. Want a Twinkie, baby? I was going to try and get on with the fruits of the Spirit, but I'm thinking I'm going to go and make breakfast. Oh, nuts. Yeah, I'm going to go make breakfast and hope that Richie didn't get disturbed.